Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, a homeowner association sues me for having a disabled private parking spot in front of my house. They claim that I am faking my disability and that I'm being discriminatory for not allowing anyone else to park there. Here is what happened, let's dive right into the story. I only recently discovered this site and all the people telling their stories of how the HOAs tried to screw them over. And well, after a lot of lurking, I finally decided to tell a story of my own regarding an HOA from my area. I live in an Asian country and like some other stories mentioned, the HOA equivalencies here can get pretty brutal. I was not a member personally, but funny enough, I don't think they would have let me join even if I wanted to. The people running it seem to have a huge prejudice against disabled people, where they don't even want them living in the area, let alone joining the HOA. When I was 7 years old, I got into a bad car accident and have been bound to a wheelchair ever since. I'm independent and live alone and even drive a car with hand control. One thing that I get because of my disability is a private parking space right in front of my house. This is one thing that drives the HOA crazy because it also happens to be right across the street from their main location of operations, and finding parking can be difficult. Hence why I need a private spot so I can avoid needing to travel a long distance. This is not from like the town or anything either, this is a government thing that I get, so even if I was in the HOA, they could not take it away from me. Actually, at first they did try to get me to join the HOA, but it turns out that it was because they assumed they could force me to move or take away my parking space. Once they learned it would not work, they stopped asking me to join, thankfully. Still, that does not stop them from coming up to me constantly for the sole purpose to harass me. HOA, I'm so sick of you taking that spot up illegally. Me, I have told you before, it's totally legal. You can look up the laws regarding disability and parking if you don't want to listen to me. HOA person, you're just faking disability in order to park near your house. Everybody knows that disabled people cannot afford a big house or drive a car. You just put on this act because you want people to feel bad for you and you want to get a bunch of free things. Me, I have a big house and a car because I have a good job. Maybe if you had a job, you would not worry so much about who's parking where and spying on the neighborhood all day. I might have been out of line, but I was getting really sick of these people. Multiple times I've come home from work to see somebody parked in my personal spot and needing to find them and getting them to move the car. They just hated that I was disabled and wanted me out of the neighborhood no matter what. They went so far as to actually file a lawsuit against me. They were claiming it was discrimination against them to not be able to park in that spot, meaning they had less parking overall and it was unfair to them. They obviously lost because of how insane the lawsuit was. Thinking I was the one that made them look bad, they wanted to try something else. That if they could not have the spot, then nobody could. They had put up signs about construction and even had paperwork for road repairs to be taking place. They blocked off the area for road repairs, which just so happened to consist of only my spot. The blockage was there for over a week before I realized that no road work was gonna happen. I found a lawyer and took them to court after we could not find any planned road work to actually happen in that location. During the process, the city got involved and told them that they had to let me park in my spot. That when construction started, the actual company would block the area off, but until then, they could not stop me. Then the company they claimed was doing the construction was contacted about when they would be doing the work and that they were just confused. They did not fill out any of that paperwork to do work on the roads, and it turns out that the HOA guys forged the entire thing just to have something physical to show me for when I complained about it. Now they were in some deep trouble because forgery was a big deal, and they were doing it while in a position of power. They were going to a criminal trial and if found guilty, could be facing prison time. Before I get into what happened that day, I just quickly want to talk about how their reputation was affected in the meantime. As you can imagine, people found out quickly what they had done and more important why. So now they are in the minority for hating on somebody with a disability, and most people here are the complete opposite of that. We are taught at a young age to always help people in need, so I spend most of my life with people trying to help me, not going after me. Especially when I was just a kid, I always had people willing to help me if I couldn't find a curb, ramp or needed to cross a busy street. The main point being that seeing these HOA guys going after somebody in a wheelchair totally tanked any respect or reputation they had. Instead, they were getting told off for being so heartless and saying that they had no business running a neighborhood. It was really refreshing after all the hate to be reminded that most people are not like that. In fact, a few of my neighbors went so far as to make a little sign with my name on it and putting it up near the spot so people knew that it was not just a disabled parking spot, but it was mine. I found that sweet and funny. Sorry for the ramble, I just wanted to add in some niceness to the story and make sure that people did not think I live in some anti-disabled people country. In court, the HOA was trying to claim that the road was actually damaged and they needed repairs. That they forged the documents, but it was not to try and hurt me, but instead to help me. Suddenly they were acting like I was a poor invalid and they were just trying to protect me. Their lies were quickly squashed because pictures exist and the road had photos taken of it showing that nothing was wrong with it, they were just being jerks. They found all 3 of the HOA members responsible for the forgery and they actually did end up going to prison for a little while because of it. The remaining members ended up trying to quietly leave because of all the hate that they were getting and not wanting to be on the end of it. We still have an HOA, and while it is filled with nice people, I still think I won't be joining it anytime soon. And here, Ripe Stars, honestly, why do HOAs seemingly hate some disabled people so much? I mean, certainly this is not all HOAs, but a lot of them, and especially the ones we have in these stories. It is absolutely despicable. Anyway, if you still enjoy the HOA stories, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much, and now let's dive into the next one. It is a revenge story. Working construction at a small university with a lot of snobbish entitled students. We are remodeling the kitchen, which has a maintenance entrance that students are not supposed to use, but they do it anyway because it's a shortcut to the dining hall. Today we are painting the doors and door frames, so we really need people not to walk through so they don't touch anything or track paint drippings all over the carpet. We are painting inside of the door and in comes entitled Karen number 1. She demands through the knob hole that we stop what we are doing and open the door for her so she can get up to the dining hall. 0.5 seconds faster than going around. I tell her politely that this entrance is closed for a few hours because of the wet paint. She informs me that we are not allowed to block a fire exit, and at this point put down my roller, open the door and tell her that this is not a fire exit and point to the authorized personnel only sign next to the door. This Karen totally ignores me and tries to squeeze her considerable girth past me anyway, still yelling something about fire exits. Of course, the entire side of her body got covered in paint when she brushed up against the door frame. The best part is she did not even notice as she walked away. I had to repaint the spot, but it's a small price to pay for knowing that she will be stuck to a dining hall chair in a few minutes. And yeah guys, when it is about getting revenge, sometimes the little things in life give you the most pleasure. Either way, the next one is another revenge story. So I'm a woman in my 30s with a reasonably good corporate type job in a field with lots of room for growth, and I'm recently back into the dating scene after a decade. I'm kind of a would-be 10 if she lost 30 pounds looking girl, beautiful face if a bit chubby, but I never have issues getting a date. I'm not well off, but I'm stable and have a bit of spending money. I live in a large multicultural city and my ex was an immigrant, so I'm open to dating people of any origin. So here is what happened. A few weeks ago I met a very charming man from a Latin American country, only a couple years younger than me. He seemed very sweet, cuddly, intelligent, family-oriented, emotionally available, educated, and in a good profession back home in his country, as well as having a lot in common with me. Chemistry seemed amazing inside and outside the bedroom. He was honest that he was in my country on a tourist visa, but hoping to stay. I made it clear that I would not be able to help him with that, but we would have a fun summer fling while he was here. If he managed to stay or come back, only then would we consider a real relationship. Then the other shoe dropped. A couple weeks and 4 dates in, during a text conversation about my work, he asked me to be his sugar mommy. I initially laughed and assumed it was a joke. He kept pushing and clearly said it wasn't. Of course, feeling insulted by this, I went off on him. He maintained it as a serious ask until I hit a nerve with my complaints about how embarrassed he should be to ask me that. Then he got angry and insulted me for thinking he was serious about it. No apology for being hurtful to me. Obviously, what I did next was take screenshots and cry about it to my closest friends. I was hurt that I was fooled into thinking he liked me and that he thought I needed to pay for a man. My friends started the fuse on what happened next. One of my friends started snooping more on his online presence. Together, we found about 6 different Instagram accounts that were him using different variations of his name and different photos of himself, all uploaded in batches. On Facebook, a similar pattern. All very scammy and suspicious looking. He had been foolish enough on one of his profiles though to follow and tag the employer that he was working for illegally on his tourist visa in my country. So then I contacted another close friend in a local law enforcement agency that works with immigration. She looked up his file. He had a wife and daughter at home. I released the hounds after that. The friend who helped me investigate online made several group chats on multiple platforms with all of his family, immediate and extended, and friends. She released all the screenshots as well as a rant about how shameful it was. As they started blocking her, she added more people. I found his sister's phone number and she sent her messages on there too. Everyone he knows, including his wife, knows that he is unfaithful and trying to take advantage of women. 30 minutes after the online bombardment started, I got a rude message from him about how I should be smart enough to know that he was joking and he does not need to sell himself. I did not reply. Next step, you're asking? Well, online immigration reporting form with all the info we found, work info, employer name and address, his home address, full name, DOB, photos, screenshots admitting to working. Usually these reports take months to be reviewed, if at all, but I gave the file number to my law enforcement friend. 2 days later, law enforcement officers visited him at home. They found him with a phone number that was issued to a local resident. All his roommates also had numbers issued to the same person, a direct link to the employer. He received a caution for trying to scam me, a no-contact order, and a flag on his immigration file that, based on his country of origin, will likely mean he can never return, as well as a strict warning to not work without authorization. His roommates also received warnings. His employer received a visit next. And well, they found significant proof that they'd been employing him illegally, as well as multiple other people. Their investigation is still ongoing, but so far they are likely to receive tens of thousands in fines or possible even jail time. The guy is not getting deported because the government would have to pay for it and proceedings take longer than his remaining visa time, but he is now upgraded from a flagged file to a multi-year ban on re-entry to my country. If he bothers me again though, he will be deported as well. I hope he enjoys going back to his angry wife and the ridicule from everyone he knows. See ya again, never. And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this story. Do you think OP went too far, or did this guy just get what he deserved? Let me know in the comments. And the next one is an airplane revenge story. Background: my grandfather is turning 85 this weekend, so I'm flying from Seattle to New Jersey on a red-eye so I can go to his birthday party and see my extended family. Normally I fly Alaska and book my own flights, always choosing seats in emptier rows in the back of the plane, but since my dad generously bought my ticket home for me this time, I ended up on a United flight. Thankfully, I'm neither a doctor nor a guitar. And by the way guys, do you remember that incident with United that was all over the news? I think it was a Chinese doctor or something? Damn, that feels like it was so long ago, but I'm curious if people in the United States still remember this. Because honestly, it even made international news, which is kind of surprising to be honest. Anyway, unfortunately, I ended up in the aisle seat of the worst possible row, the one directly in front of the emergency exit row. So this row never reclines because in case there is an emergency evacuation of the plane, they don't want to have a bunch of chairs leaned way back blocking the exit in any way. Frustratingly though, I only discovered this about 30 minutes into the 5-hour flight after spending a couple minutes fiddling with the impotent recline button. To make matters slightly more irritating, the flight was cranked up to an uncomfortable warm temperature to lull the passengers to sleep maybe? Anyway, so lastly, it's worth mentioning that I'm 6'3" and about 180 pounds, and while I'm not fat, I do have fairly broad shoulders, so I don't fit into airplane seats perfectly. In summary, the flight was already mildly uncomfortable before the story starts in the earnest. So now onto what happened. I was seated next to a tiny girl about my age, which is mid-20s. When we sat down and settled in, we exchanged the traditional traveler's nod of recognition and then proceeded to politely ignore each other by escaping into my music and her Sudoku. Fast forward about 30 minutes shortly after discovering that we were in the nightmare row, I noticed the armrest between me and the middle seat was raised to about 45 degrees. Unsure of how it got there, I lowered it and went back to stewing over how uncomfortable this flight was shaping up to be. A minute later, I noticed it was up to the same spot again. I realized that my neighbor probably wanted it up, so I raised it all the way up, only for her to instantly bring it back to its halfway up position. She then told me matter-of-factly that she put it there so that my shoulder did not extend past my seat. Now, I'm no savage. I recognize that the middle seat is entitled to the use of 2 armrests to make up for being boxed in, but this misuse of the armrest felt a bit over the top. I recognize some people might disagree with me on this point, but in my opinion, positioning the armrest to wall out your neighbors is a dick move. You get the surface of the armrest, not the armrest, and all the airspace above and around it. What's more, this girl did not even have the courtesy to give me a heads up that I was encroaching on her space or even acknowledge what she was doing until the 3rd time she did it. It felt like my own personal Crimea, and it, in addition to the other mild inconveniences of the flight, had me feeling some type of way. So, on to my revenge. I am not one for direct confrontation with strangers in potentially awkward scenarios. I contemplated releasing some silent farts in her general direction, but the potential for friendly fire and collateral damage to innocent passengers was far too high. Instead, I waited until we landed and started to deplane to raise the armrest all the way and start to type this post. She's already standing up in her seat and seat to get off the plane, clearly irritated that I'm still buckled in and tapping away with my headphones in. I plan on letting a couple rows behind us get out before I let her out. Build an armrest wall? Well, feel the wrath of row 15's aisle gatekeeper. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, have you ever gotten petty revenge on anyone in an airplane? Let us know about it, I'm so curious. Either way, the next one is an Am I the A-hole wife story. I, 30 male, have a wife, 30 female, and a daughter, 7 female. I work in finance and my wife is a stay-at-home mom as I earn sufficiently for the both of us. My wife is a great stay-at-home mom and takes great care of our house. I was lucky to buy a home as I earn well in a medium cost of living city. I love my wife, but she finds it humorous to say that I'm incapable of doing household tasks, and we had agreed that she would do them when we decided she would stay at home, but I do stuff occasionally when we are both home if she asks me to, but then if I say load the dishwasher for her, she will claim I did it wrong just because I do it different than she does. It still cleans well though. The other day we were eating and she told me about her day and how she went grocery shopping and optimized the cost by buying specific items at specific stores and accounting for the cost of traveling to each store, and she made an offhanded remark that I would never be able to do that and said in a "what would you ever do without me" kind of way. I replied back saying that of course I could do it, I handle complex decisions and calculations at my work as I work in finance, and that I have a master's degree, and what I do involves more intellect than household operations, even though I acknowledge and appreciate what she does. I would be capable if the roles were reversed. She got angry and seemed to think that I was calling her stupid when I was not, and then cried, and now I feel like an a-hole. She said she was a very good student and had she graduated she would be in my position as well. My wife and I met in college, but she was an international student studying physics and computer science, and she had issues with her loan from her home country and could not afford to complete it, and we got married and then so she could stay. Initially, she wanted to complete it later, but after finding the funds, she agreed to be a stay-at-home mom when I got a good job, and I appreciate that a lot as we were able to have a kid early on, even while I was completing my master's and working full-time. And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think OP is being the a-hole here or not? And yeah, Ripe Stars, personally, while I would say OP is probably the a-hole in the way he reacted here, I do, just from this post, see a lot of issues in this relationship. There seems to be some kind of resentment coming not only from OP but maybe also from his wife, who might not be happy with her position in life. But then again, maybe she's just looking for validation or something from OP, saying that she does a good job or something, and clearly he did the complete opposite thing. As always though, for me it's really tough to judge a relationship from just one simple Reddit post alone. But then again, that's one of the specialties of people on Reddit, not one of mine though. Anyway, the first comment on Reddit said, "I'm willing to say you are the a-hole, but not in a typical way. Your wife is bored and does not feel appreciated. She was sharing all these things with you, so you would say, wow, great job, you're brilliant. Just apologize. Tiny human is 7 now. See if she wants to go back to school. Ask her what she's thinking and listen. Comment number 2, you are the a-hole. She was not looking to put you down, she's looking for validation and appreciation of her contributions to the household. As much as she loves your kids, she probably also finds it mind-numbing at times to not have the intellectual challenges of her prior studies in physics and computer science. Would it kill you to show a little understanding of that? And yeah, Ripe Stars, once again, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Thank you very much. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.